talk about the Steelers. The Steelers are still waiting on a decision from Aaron Rodgers. Ownership has come out and they said that, hey, they're not going to wait for too long, but they're willing to be patient. There's a show tomorrow night involving Pat McAfee and his crew. They're going to be in Pittsburgh. A lot of people are saying that Aaron Rodgers may show up as a surprise and he may give Pat McAfee the big scoop. We've seen Pat McAfee go out there with athletes like LeBron James, Caitlin Clark. He's very well respected in the media. If he does sign with the Steelers, it'll be a solid move. And I'll get a separate video. Right now, I'm going to talk about the current state of this organization. They're depending on a 41-year-old quarterback to come over and sign with their team. You let Russell Wilson walk. He went to the New York Giants. A lot of reports came out that he wanted to come back to the Steelers. He chose to come to the Steelers just last offseason when he got cut by the Denver Broncos. The New York Giants had an offer on the table. He decided to walk away and come to the Steelers. He hurt his leg in training camp, hurt his calf to be specific. They also made a trade to bring in Justin Fields. They started Justin Fields for the first 6 games of the regular season. Justin Fields went 4-2 as a starter with the Steelers. Not every loss was on him, but I'll never forget that Dallas Cowboys game. Sunday Night Football, the offense was putrid. The defense had so many turnovers on Dak Prescott and that offense, but the Steelers' offense was completely terrible that day. You could say it was a raining game. It got delayed by 45 minutes because of the weather. Whatever. They should have still won that football game, and it wasn't all on Justin Fields. Justin Fields is no longer with this team. He's with the New York Jets. Russell Wilson with the New York Giants. Sam Darnold basically got a 1-year deal with the Seattle Seahawks. He signed a 3-year contract, but it's no dead money after the first year. You could have offered him a contract. He's now with Seattle. That's 3 quarterback options that you could have had right now in your building. There were also talks about potentially making a trade with Matthew Stafford. I never thought they were going to go out there and make a move for Matthew Stafford, but apparently ownership was on board with possibly bringing him in. You would not be in this situation if Coach Tomlin and his staff could develop a quarterback. In 2020, you selected Kenny Pickett in the first round. Now, Kenny Pickett was not a good quarterback. I will give you that. But at the same time, Matt Canada was his offensive coordinator. I still have PTSD till this day from watching Steelers football with Matt Canada being the offensive coordinator. Mike Tomlin has not done a good job in terms of rebuilding his offense since Big Ben retired. The same with Le'Veon Bell, with him walking away in free agency and going to the New York Jets and the entire Antonio Brown situation. Those are Hall of Fame caliber players, don't get me wrong. But look at the NFL today. Top coaches can go out there. They can rebuild their offense within just a year. The Seahawks did it with Geno Smith. They moved on from Russell Wilson. They brought in Geno Smith. They still had the top offense in the NFL because the infrastructure was there. And Pete Carroll was the head coach. You look at Coach Tomlin. Since Big Ben hurt his elbow against the Seahawks, they have produced some of the worst offenses in the NFL to date. And it starts with their passing offense. You had Deontay Johnson. You had George Pickens. You had a young Kenny Pickett. You decided to sit Kenny Pickett down for the first couple games of his rookie season. Who was the starting quarterback? Mitch Trubisky. That was a Mike Tomlin decision. And I know it's hard as hell to go out there and go from your Hall of Fame quarterback and go into a different direction. A lot of teams deal with this. The Patriots, they went on from Tom Brady. He walked in free agency. He went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They ended up with Mac Jones. At least they made the NFL playoffs in the first year. And Bill Belichick lost his mind. The reason why I bring that team up in particular, the Patriots moved on from Bill Belichick. That man won them 6 Super Bowls with Tom Brady, and they moved on from Coach Belichick. He is now a coach in college. Mike Tomlin has not won a playoff game since 2016. They have gotten embarrassed in the playoffs by teams like the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens, and it is no shame in losing to those teams. It's the way that you're losing against those teams in the NFL playoffs. We have seen Coach Tomlin teams go out there and lose to teams that had Tim Tebow as a starting quarterback in the playoffs with the Denver Broncos. They also lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars with Blake Bortles as a starting quarterback. Mike Tomlin is still a solid head coach, but he can't rebuild the offense. Look at these offensive coordinators over the years. Randy Fichtner, he was so terrible they fired him after 1 season, but yet reporters came out. They're shielding Coach Tomlin. He had a close relationship with Big Ben. He was a quarterback's coach. That's why they hired him to be offensive coordinator. They hired him to be the offensive coordinator because he told Coach Tomlin in meetings, and this has been confirmed, that he was willing to run the football and work off of short passes and play through the defense. That is what Coach Tomlin wants. Don't believe me? His first press conference, when he first took over the job, when he had that head full of hair, he said, we're going to stop the run and run the football. That has been his main game plan all the way through up to this point. And it worked early on. But since then, it's been completely terrible. The last solid offensive coordinator you had was Todd Haley. Randy Fichtner, terrible. Matt Canada, completely horrible. He was so bad, they fired him during the season. The Steelers organization, they don't even fire head coaches. They fired this offensive coordinator during the season. The offense was so bad, you had the quarterback's coach and the running back's coach combining their heads together during the week, holding joint meetings on how to fix his offense. And yet you still had Mitch Trubisky being your starting quarterback. This is when Kenny Pickett went down. He hurt his ankle. Trubisky was terrible. They put in Mason Rudolph. They went out for the rest of the season. All of that happened on Coach Tomlin's hands. And then he goes out there and he brings in Arthur Smith. Now, Arthur Smith is a better offensive coordinator than Matt Canada. He's a better offensive coordinator than Randy Fichtner. It's not saying much. Arthur Smith is still a bad offensive coordinator. But I will give him the excuse. They did not have elite weapons on the outside besides Pat at the tight end position. He's a solid tight end. He's not a top receiving tight end in the NFL, but he's solid at his job. And you had George Pickens on the outside. Those are your only two dynamic playmakers. And you had Calvin Austin III, who tried to step up for you in big moments, especially when George Pickens went down with his hamstring injury. But it seems like everyone has been the scapegoat for Coach Tomlin, except for him. He has not been held accountable for the shortcomings with this organization. And I have to say this again. I'm a big Mike Tomlin fan. But it was time to move on 2 to 3 years ago. The fact that you cannot get to the Super Bowl with Le'Veon Bell, Big Ben, Antonio Brown, they were dealing with injuries in the playoffs. Understand that. But he was getting out coached by Bill Belichick every single time. You're losing by 2 to 3 touchdowns. That is how bad they were getting beat in the playoffs by Tom Brady. And you know what? It happens. Some of the best teams that have been orchestrated in the AFC from the year 2000 all the way up to 2018, they were getting dominated by the Patriots. You ran into the dynasty. But there is still no reason to why the Steelers could not be in that conversation. A lot of people are still looking at that logo and saying that this is a historic franchise, and they are in the past with coaches like Chuck Noll and Bill Cowher. Bill Cowher went out there. He decided to step down and moved over to Coach Tomlin. They held on to Chuck Noll a little bit too long, in my opinion. They are a stable organization, but they're safe. They don't want to go out there. They don't want to make a big time move. It's time to move on from Coach Tomlin, even if you do bring in Aaron Rodgers. Because even with Aaron Rodgers, you're not going to be a Super Bowl contending team. And call me crazy, even if they have Mason Rudolph at the quarterback position, they're going to make the NFL playoffs. That's how good of a regular season coach Mike Tomlin is. And Mike Tomlin, I look at him like how I look at certain players. Some people may say that Aaron Rodgers is washed up right now. What is Coach Tomlin? Coaches can get washed up. The time has passed them by. The time passed Bill Belichick by. It happens. Some of the top coaches in the NFL, they can adapt with the times. It's time to move on. But the fact that this organization, and it's more than just Coach Tomlin, Omar Khan and ownership, the fact that you're waiting for Aaron Rodgers this late in free agency should tell you everything right now. You're depending on a 41-year-old quarterback. And what happens if he goes down? Mason Rudolph is going to be your success plan? You have Mike Tomlin at the press conference a week ago, the ownership meetings, all the coaches, general managers, the owners, he's sweating his butt off when they asked him about Aaron Rodgers. He said that they're in a comfortable state right now, that he's willing to go in with Mason Rudolph. If the season started right now, that would be your starting quarterback. And it brings me over to the NFL draft. If they don't trade up for Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, which is highly unlikely, they should not draft a quarterback in the first round. Maybe you think about Jackson Dart. I like Jackson Dart, but I feel like he's being overrated right now by the national media. If you get him in the second or third round, congratulations. Problem is, this team doesn't have a second round pick because you need to bring in another wide receiver. I love the DK Metcalf trade. DK Metcalf, phenomenal player. You have two true number ones on the outside now with George Pickens and with DK Metcalf. And Calvin Austin III is the number 3 wide receiver. But they haven't ran into wide receiving problems in over 30 years, it seems like, until last season. You only have one option. So going out there and getting DK Metcalf, That's a great move. You could talk about the attitude concerns with him and George Pickens. Just keep those guys active. Move them around. Wide receivers can be divas, but if you have a good coach, especially at the offensive coordinating position, you won't worry about this. We've seen Brandon Ayuk complain about this. The same with Deebo Samuel. The same with Jordan Addison. Just give them the football. Move them around. Keep them busy. One thing that I've learned, if you keep players busy on the field, you keep them moving around, you keep them in motion, they don't have that much time to complain on the sideline because they're tired. Get them the football. That's all they want. They do have to grow up as players. I'm not going to come on here and shield the wide receivers. You're a grown man getting paid millions of dollars. Go out there and do your job. If you only have 2 to 3 catches in a game, it is what it is. But keep these players busy. I don't blame them for complaining over the last 3 to 4 years with how bad this offense has been. You also need a running back. Najee Harris is no longer with this roster. He was a solid running back option. I don't blame them for not bringing him back. The Chargers signed him for a 1-year deal under $10 million. He's one of the better power backs you can have. He was too slow, in my opinion. You have Jaylen Warren. You have Kenneth Gainwell. That's not a very good running back duo, in my opinion. It's a solid running back duo. I like Jaylen Warren a lot. I don't know if he can handle 20 touches in a game every single week. And you may say that's the running back by committee with Kenneth Gainwell and Jaylen Warren. You still need a big bruiser. I think Ollie Gordon would be a very good running back with this organization from Oklahoma State. You don't want Ollie Gordon? That's fine. Donovan Edwards from Michigan. They need a bruiser in goal line situations because even though I'm a huge fan of Jaylen Warren, he only had 1 rushing touchdown. And he's not that effective in the red zone. Najee Harris is better. In short yard situations, Najee Harris is a bowling ball. He's better. I feel like the offensive line gets too much hate. I like their young offensive line. I like the talent. But at the same time, you have a terrible offensive line coach. This offensive line coach was canned by the Carolina Panthers. They got rid of him. You haven't had a good offensive line coach and a good offensive line since Mike Munchak was your former offensive line coach, and he walked away. He went over to the Denver Broncos. Look at this offensive line since you lost talent like Andrew Villanueva. He went to the Baltimore Ravens. Maurice Pouncey at the center position. David DeCastro. Roman Foster. Your offensive line was aging out with Big Ben, and you did not have a success plan. Just like your quarterback position, you were still trying to squeeze the life out of Big Ben. That's why you drafted Najee Harris in the first round. You haven't hit your first round picks either in the last 4 years. You haven't retained those players. They have not played up to the standard of the Steelers organization. Remember, Mike Tomlin said the standard is a standard. They haven't played up to that standard. They haven't drafted very well in the first round. But back to the offensive line conversation. The talent is there. The coaching is not. Once again, Mike Tomlin. Troy Fautanu, you drafted him in the first round, had a solid couple of games, solid couple of snaps before he hurt his knee and a walkthrough. But he looked very good at the right tackle position. I think there's a lot of upside there. Mason McCormick at the right guard position. Very good player. You have Zach Frazier, center position. He was one of the better centers last season. And he was a rookie. He was not supposed to be here. That was supposed to be Herbig starting at that center position. Broderick Jones has been a complete bust so far. And you have Isaac at the left guard position. If anyone's crying about Dan Moore Jr. not coming back saying that they lost him, I saw Colin Cowherd come out and say that the Steelers are in a terrible situation. They lost their starting offensive lineman. That man let up 12 sacks last season. Get a grip. He's terrible. Maybe the Tennessee Titans can get the most out of him. He's horrible. Dan Moore Jr. was not a good starting tackle. But I look at this offensive line. Young pieces are there. Let them gel together. Play as a unit. Then you'll get better. The wide receiving core, I like it. Running back position, I'm 50-50 on because personally, I'm a big fan of Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell. But I'm real enough to know that that's not going to get it done, especially if you have Aaron Rodgers. Get him a consistent run game. Defensively, they need to go defensive tackle in the first round. Keanu Benton is a solid player. Cameron Hayward is still phenomenal. They let Derrick Henry go out there and completely dominate them. And not just one game, but in 2 games. 1 game in the regular season, and especially in the postseason and the playoffs. You have to stop that run. Getting bigger up front and getting more physical is going to help you out. You have 2 very good pass rushers. You have one of the best pass rushers in the league in TJ Watt. You have Alex Highsmith, very good player. TJ Watt, I feel for him. He is now 30 years old. For the ones that don't know, while they're waiting for Aaron Rodgers to come over, this man is in the last year of his contract. You need to get this deal done before Michael Parsons gets his deal done, or before Trey Hendrickson gets his deal done. Because it's a great chance that TJ Watt may make over $35 million a year, and he deserves it. But TJ Watt, phenomenal player. He is their best defensive player. Without TJ Watt, they have below average defense. With him, they have a top 10 defense. That is how special he is. Every single year, he's in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. Cameron Hayward continues to go out there and ball out, but he is getting older. Hopefully, they can get someone like Kenneth Grant from Michigan, defensive tackle position. And they missed Michigan's pro day because they was having that meeting with Aaron Rodgers in the PA. The secondary, they go out there. They have Joey Porter Jr. He holds a little bit too much, in my opinion. He's a solid number one cornerback. It's just the penalties. You signed Darius Slay. Darius Slay, man, behind his prime. And the Steelers continue to do this. They did this with Patrick Peterson. They did this with Joe Hayden. As a rotational corner, he'll be fine. I like Corey at that cornerback position right now more than I like Darius Slay. Consistently, because he was able to have a big-time game against the Broncos. It's just the injuries for him. That's it. But as a rotational corner, Darius Slay should be fine. And you have Brandon Echols at the nickel cornerback position. Linebackers, you have Peyton Wilson, who had a solid rookie season. And you have Patrick Queen, two very good players. So the Steelers, they have a good team. If they bring in Aaron Rodgers, solid move. If they don't, they may trade up in the first round to select a quarterback like Jackson Dart. Shedeur Sanders may not be there because the Browns have the second overall pick and they need a quarterback. But they need an answer within the next 48 hours from Aaron Rodgers. The Steelers, they'll make the playoffs with Mason Rudolph. You can call me crazy for saying that, but you know the way that Tomlin is going to orchestrate this team. Go out there and put the quarterback down with TJ Watt, with Alex Highsmith. And the one thing with the Steelers, they can grind out some nasty wins. They had a win this season against the Baltimore Ravens to where they just kicked field goals. And their defense completely took over with an interception and a fumble on Derrick Henry. That's how they win football games. Against the New York Giants, they had so many miscues on the offensive end. They should have had 2 to 3 more touchdowns, but shoulda, coulda, woulda. Doesn't work in the NFL. You're winning that defense off your defense and off special teams. That's how they have been winning games since Big Ben retired and really since Big Ben hurt his elbow. It's time to go into a different direction. I know why they wanted to bring in Aaron Rodgers. They want to see a quarterback that can go out there and still throw the football around. And even though I'm down on Aaron Rodgers right now, I'll cover more of this in a video if he does decide to sign or not, because I don't want to come on here and load this channel up with Aaron Rodgers and Steelers news. But when I look at the current state of this team, they're not in a good position. The standard with the Steelers, like Mike Tomlin said, he said the standard is to make the NFL playoffs and to make a deep playoff run, not to make the NFL playoffs and get bounced out in the first round and lose by 2 to 3 touchdowns. But that has been the standard for the Steelers since 2016. If this was any other coach that could not rebuild their offense, they would have fired him a long time ago. And I know he's never had a losing season. For this city, this organization, not getting to the AFC Championship game, not going to the Super Bowl, that's a losing season. And it's more than just Coach Tomlin. Ownership has allowed this. And Omar Khan, he's still a relatively new general manager. You had Kevin Colbert all those years with the Steelers. He was missing those draft picks also. I have more faith in Omar Khan because he's going outside the box. He's making trades to bring in DK Metcalf. He's trying to bring in some star talent through free agency by going out there and getting guys like Patrick Queen. By being aggressive in the NFL draft, I can't come on here and say that he's done a terrible job because I don't believe that he has. But when I look at Coach Tomlin and this offense, it has to be better with or without Aaron Rodgers. And the fact that you brought in Arthur Smith, who could not develop a quarterback with the Atlanta Falcons. Remember, he brought in Marcus Mariota. That was a quarterback that he wanted to bring in. Didn't work out. We see him with the Washington Commanders. He came in for a couple of games. He looked very good under elite coaching with Dan Quinn and also with Cliff Kingsbury. Desmond Ridder was a horrible quarterback. All the reports came out and they were saying that was an Arthur Smith move, that he wanted to get him out of Cincinnati and he wanted to mold him to possibly being a franchise quarterback. And look at Desmond Ridder now. He has struggled to find a spot in the NFL. He is best around the league so many times. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you feel about the current state of the Steelers, and are the Steelers making a mistake by still waiting on Aaron Rodgers? But it's crazy to see Justin Fields walk out the door They basically pushed Russell Wilson out, and I understand why they did it. And like I said, I'll cover that subject more in the Aaron Rodgers video. And the fact that you didn't even want to try to bring in Sam Darnold. But if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys.